Welcome back to another video. My name's Chase. This is my garage. Behind me is my 1979 Oldsmobile custom cruiser wagon that we're putting this Duramax diesel drivetrain in. If you haven't already, go check out my other videos on this project. This is probably going to be another drug out video that's recorded over the course of a couple weeks. I am now finally at the point where I have to make engine mounts and transmission mount for this, because if I don't, I can't really continue with the other steps I need to do. So let's get this back in, probably do another quick time lapse, and then talk a little bit more. So I just realized I didn't have the arm extended, so let's do that real quick. I don't know what's going on here. I don't know why I'm struggling right now. So I did, in between last video and now, I had to replace the hydraulic cylinder. This one decided it wanted to start leaking from the bottom somewhere. That's a 2-ton ram, and this is a Harbor Freight 8-ton. Not that I'll ever need to use the 8-ton, but for 20 bucks more, why not? So I think what I gotta do real quick is reposition the chain. I felt like I've told myself that 30,000 times. So I need to figure out a better chain position, because right now when I go to pick this up, I'm pretty much lifting the whole one side of the hoist up, and I cannot use myself as a counterweight and push at the same time comfortably. So let me figure that out and we'll try this again. Clearly I haven't had this thing in a while, so shorten the arm back, added some bungee cords here to keep this from rotating because it was starting to move to one side. So we're all straightened up. We'll try this again. I remember why I had that arm out. I need the arm out so I get the little extra height to get over that front sway bar. So let's readjust again. See what happens. So that was a little sketchy. I don't know if you could tell by the video, but I still had to use myself as a counterweight. The floor and the outside concrete is not even, and I was having a little trouble. And when this started swinging, the feet wanted to pick up on the engine hoist, and it got scary. But I'm halfway in and realized the first time I put this in, everything was tilted down and then I just use the floor jack to bring the tail end up. So I'm gonna try to take these bungee cords off and spin the leveler and see if I can get this tilted down. We'll see what happens. So you can see what I'm seeing. I had to adjust the leveler so this transmission tilts down so I can get it down in the tunnel. Believe it or not, this giant Allison 1000 that's supposed to be in a truck fits in this transmission tunnel pretty good, and I didn't have to modify anything to make it fit, which is awesome. But right now I just need it to go back in so we can do the next step. Alright, so I realized that angle probably wasn't very interesting or entertaining. The first time-lapse angle probably wasn't either, but at least you got to watch me struggle a little bit. So I'm kind of back in as much as I can go with the cherry picker by itself. I need to get the floor jack up under there so I can level out the transmission a little bit, and then we can get this, start to get this a little more level. As you can see, if you haven't watched the other videos, you should. By the time this is in and flat, it will clear the hood, so nobody is ever gonna know that this 1979 Oldsmobile has a Duramax under the hood. Let's get the floor jack. Floor jack's under there. I got this kind of teeter-tottering, but another fear hit that I did all that work to try to redo my steering, and I think the steering shaft is in a little bit further than I had it the first time. So now this manifold, I think, is in the way. I think I'm gonna have to take out this section of the shaft, drop the engine in the rest of the way, because I still got, probably 8 inches or so to go down in the front here. And I still got space in this area of the steering, which is good. I don't think this corner joint is gonna have a problem. Over here still has a lot of space. This side of the engine's higher than this side right now, which is fine. I can make all them fine tunes once it's down. But I'll go ahead and work on taking that section of the shaft out, get this level again, hopefully put the shaft back in without having to modify any of that anymore. I don't think I showed it in another video. I'll probably go ahead and throw this clip in of finishing, I guess, the steering. I know I said I'd put a video in of me turning the wheel once everything's together. I didn't end up recording that either, but I recorded a video of how I made my tie rods. I had to make them from scratch, kind of, but kind of not. So I'll put that in this part of the video. One thing with these Mustang 2 tie rods, this part was bigger than the original Oldsmobile rods. That's a 1/2 inch thread, and that's smaller. I didn't measure it, 3/8 probably. So 1/2" thread, 3/8 thread. That means that this did not fit in, well, it's dark, in the steering knuckle like it's supposed to. So what did I do? I took Christmas tree step bit. That's goes up to 1/2". First I did that and went straight through the bottom to widen the top piece, so I know that that's what the threads are gonna go through. Then because it has to stay conical, took the next size up step bit. I'm not sure what that goes up to. It's covered right now. Took that and I went through the bottom very, 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 very slowly, and I kept fitting the tie rod up in until it was snug and the threads went all the way through, and I had enough sticking through so I could put the cotter pin through. So that's good to go now. Another thing, you'll notice these are longer than factory. I just got back from my buddy's shop. This rod here, if you watched my earlier videos, this was the rod, 1" solid rod that I originally got for when I was gonna make the pieces to hook up the rack and pinion. That fell through and I went with this option. But this is the same rod. He put those on the lathe for me, drilled them out and tapped them to the 9/16 thread. What we did was pretty neat to make this work, because this is threaded all the way through into the tie rod. Took a 9/16 bolt. I chopped the top off of it, so that's the bottom still. Chopped the top off. I made a slot in it for a screwdriver to fit in. I guess I really just needed to do one, but I made two. Took the tie rod, screwed that in halfway, then I screwed that in all the way so the thread should be matching, and then I tacked around in 3 spots, and then I just finished welding all the way around it. Then once I got done with that, I took the tap and I drove the tap in as far as I could go, and it went through pretty much all the way to the end, and it's smooth. As long as that connecting piece was smooth, that's all I really care about, because I don't think I'm ever gonna thread this that far onto that. I forgot to record it, but this tie rod, when it was up in the knuckle, had about a 1/2" to 3/4 inch gap between the threads here on the inner tie rod. So that's why we made these, so they would fit. So yeah, my ram went out on me. It's leaking somewhere around this bottom seal area, I think, and this Excel company has been out of business for I don't know how long. Well, the Google says most common replacement for this brand is the Harbor Freight. It offers the square bottom like mine had. Cool. So I pick it up, I get it home, I get it out of the box. I had already taken this one off, and like I said, it's got the square bottom. This one has mounting holes in the opposite corners here. It does not have holes in the other 2 corners. We're gonna pause the video right here. This is editing Chase. I don't know why I started rambling about something else, but what I was getting at, this new jack did not have mounting holes in that base plate. So I had to drill my own holes in the base plate. Prior to this one, the jack handle was on this side, and that was fine, it worked. With this new one, The jack handle's now on the other side, and the reason I had to do that, I guess I didn't necessarily have to do that. The fill hole is on this side of the cylinder, and it was kind of awkward to try to put fluid in here. So now the handle's on this side, and this one has the little release that you use the handle with, which I don't 100% care for, but I know it's common. But the other one had like a built-on handle. I'm sure I could maybe take that off and swap it or incorporate that somehow, but for now we're gonna leave it be. So I failed to mention when putting this back in that I did not put the torque converter back in just yet, because I know I'm gonna have to take this out. Torque converter's still on the floor there, covered up. The reason I didn't, editing Chase here again. I got a phone call from Adam at dmaxswap.com going over my ECM and TCM tuning, and this is also what he said. Well, he kind of told me, since I'm getting that 5-stage on-demand tune with the little turn knob for whatever selection I want, stock to wild, he told me if I leave it or put it in that 5th selection, I'm pretty much guaranteed close to 600 wheel horsepower, which is crazy. If I do that, knowing me, I probably will more often than I shouldn't. He highly recommended at least changing the torque converter. Everything else in the transmission should be okay for a little bit. Just the torque converter won't last too much longer if I leave it in that setting 4 or setting 5. So I'm on the hunt for another torque converter. I know he recommended his products that he sells on his website, and obviously that's something I would consider just because they've been very helpful, and I'd rather pay the extra little bit money of someone that knows what they're talking about. I might as well be on the hunt for another rear end. I'm probably gonna go ahead and do what I did with my Camaro and get a Ford 9-inch, something bolt-in ready to go. A stock Ford 9-inch will hold a lot more power than this stock 10 bolt that's in it now. And if I get a 9-inch for this, I believe it has to be modified a little bit, because this is a B body car, and a factory B body car is a full-size car, which most people consider like a Caprice or an Impala. But because this is a station wagon, from my little bit of research, the station wagon rear end is like 2 inches wider than your standard full-size car. I can't confirm that right now because I don't have anything else to measure to compare to, but I believe if I just make sure I put that in the special instructions on whomever's product, they can accommodate for that and make sure I have the right size axles and tube length and whatnot. Then for gear ratio, I'm not sure on that either. I'm gonna have to crunch some more numbers. I'd like this thing to be very streetable, and I'd like to get the best mileage I can out of it, whether it be mild to wild. I feel like having this thing even on the stock setting is gonna be more than enough power to pull whatever trailer with whatever on it that I want. So having something like a 308 gear ratio, I don't think would be a problem, and I know that would also help keep the RPMs down a little bit more, even though I know the diesel's probably not even gonna bother realizing something's behind it or itself. Its idle's probably gonna be more than enough to move this car. So I'm just rambling at this point. I need to get a torque converter. I need to get a rear end. Suggestions are open in the comments. Again, I'm not necessarily looking for the cheapest option, but I am looking for something reasonable. You know, something that is going to hold up to, say, 600 wheel horsepower. I know on a diesel the torque factor is significantly more. I'm not sure a 600 wheel horse equates to roughly 1,000 torque, but I feel like it does. So if you made it this far, this was my quick little update on what's going on now. I really got to get this thing back totally in and leveled so I can finally make some type of engine and transmission mount. It's just got to be done. If I don't do that, I can't really do anything else. I don't think I've showed it up close, but I do have my whiteboard of to-do list, the Wagoon. It's got no fluids in it. I got to put the torque converter back in, mate the drivetrain. Well, I already mated the drivetrain, it's back together, but torque converter's not back in. We just talked about that. Engine mounts, trans mounts, that's the top of my list technically. Once all that's in, once mounts are made, I gotta do brake lines and fuel lines. I didn't want to do those until I knew where the engine was for sure sitting. I still have rear shocks, and my rear shocks are air shocks, so I gotta run air lines. The air lines I'm not too worried about right at this moment because I may or may not get an onboard compressor. Wiring is done, but it's not on the engine or into the car yet, so we'll get there. I gotta put my washers, I got lock washers, I gotta put those back on the steering rack. I gotta put the cotter pins in the tie rods. We're gonna take off the engine front accessories. We're gonna check alternators, probably replace belt. We're gonna check tensioners if I gotta replace anything. Check pulleys. I guess some of those I won't really know until it's running and moving, so I can't really hear it or see it. I may or may not get a new oil pan. I kind of accidentally scratched up, well, not scratch don't bother me, but I accidentally kind of dented up the oil pan a little bit just from having this big heavy thing put its full weight on it several times. We'll do an oil change. I got a spin-on filter for the transmission that'll be changed. Headliner's way down low on the list. We got core support back in. Core support is in. Then we're going to work on radiators, the intercooler, the transmission cooler, which I believe I'm going to pull from my Camaro out there because that one that I have on there is way overkill. And it has a fan on it and whatnot. Don't need it. I'll get a smaller one that can go on here. That'll also save me some money. Power steering cooler I already have. AC condenser I already have. I believe either the wagon or the trucks will work and both should fit. I got AC compressor lines that I'll have to figure out which, if I'm not mistaken, I might be able to use a type of AN line. I got power steering lines that I'll do with AN lines probably. Transmission speed sensor bolt. I just did that yesterday. I was missing a bolt to put that in, so check that off the list. I'll get a wet rag to clean that better in a minute. We're gonna rotate the weighted tires. The tires have weights on them. Some have more than others. They were just slapped on willy-nilly so I could get the car moved. Like, I believe this front tire actually has the most weights on it right now, which is in the opposite place of where it should be. So most weights go farthest away from the steering wheel. So passenger rear, right rear. Then the next most weights are gonna go left rear, driver rear. Then you're gonna go right front, driver front. And then least amount of weights is gonna be left front, driver front. Did I say driver front? Passenger front, driver front. You know what I'm talking about. So most weights back to front, least weights. We're gonna do exhaust, resonator pipe, probably something like that. Muffler, we're gonna try it out. I think I mentioned it already earlier. So exhaust is essentially going to be the downpipe off the turbo, which I think you can't see it. Whatever size that pipe is, I think is like a 4-inch, 4.5-inch pipe or something that comes off this back of the turbo. I don't know if that's stock or if that was made. We'll find out. So that may or may not split to 2 3-inch pipes all the way straight back. We'll see. Like I said, I want to keep this thing kind of quiet. I know it's still going to be a little noisy. This car would have been pretty noisy from the factory. If you haven't heard a factory Oldsmobile 350 diesel, look that video up. They're pretty clanky. So this is going to be a little noisy regardless, but I think I'm going to try to find some type of resonator pipe. And then for a muffler, I found at a junkyard 2 years ago a 3-inch in, 3-inch out Flowmaster, just chambered muffler. I think it's a Flowmaster 40. We're going to try that. I've never heard anybody putting a Flowmaster on a diesel, so we'll see. I don't think shrinking it down to 3-inch should be a problem, especially if most of the the piping is larger. We'll see. And then I got the last thing on my list, which I'm still adding and modifying as we go. I got a passenger side exhaust manifold bolt that I had taken out to take off a heat shield, I believe, and I never tightened it or torqued it back on. So minor little things. And of course, within this list that I put up here, there's like subsections. So, you know, in the back of my head, I kind of know what needs to go where. Another reason I haven't done like brake lines yet, I didn't know if I was gonna end up with disc brakes anyways, because if this does get a 9-inch rear end, it's probably gonna end up with disc brakes. Fuel lines, I didn't want to run the lines completely just yet, because from factory the fuel lines would have ran on the passenger side of the car. On this engine, your fuel in and fuel out, or fuel return, whatever, is on the right side, or the driver's side of the car, left side. So it's going to end up probably having brakes and fuel on the driver's side of the vehicle. So I don't want to rip off the accessories yet until I know this is level and in place. So I could be doing that as a video, but again, I don't want to rush a step ahead. I need this thing to sit in place. So in the meantime, hopefully next video, this is going to have everything where it needs to be, and we'll be going over my process on making the mounts. And we'll see this in here, level, under the hood, off the hoist for the first time by the end of the next video. Now, if you made it this far, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.